Hey guys, my name is Matsumo, and today I'm excited to say that Battlefield has just revealed what content that they're going to be bringing to the game, and all I can say is that it's about time. You guys may have noticed that Battlefield 5, that while at its core, the gameplay itself is quite satisfying, that it hasn't really had a lot of content since release. They have introduced a fair amount of weapons along the way. They've had their live service going, but by and large, for the last 7 to 8 months, there hasn't actually been any new maps. That is going to be changing in a pretty significant way. What we know so far is that over the next couple of months, they're going to be introducing 5 new maps for everyone. This isn't a premium service like past Battlefield games where you had to pay an upfront cost. They're not trying to split the player base here. As long as you own Battlefield 5, you're going to be able to enjoy this content day one. And so the first map that we're going to be getting this month actually comes from the single player, and it's called All Sundan. It's going to be intermixing the vehicle and infantry-based gameplay that the Battlefield franchise is known for. This isn't going to be a close quarter map by any stretch of the imagination, but the hope that I have for it is that it isn't going to be a one-for-one recreation of the single player map. The reason why I say this is that if that was actually the case, what took them so long to actually introduce this into the multiplayer? But also, the multiplayer obviously plays different from a single player, and it wouldn't be balanced accordingly. If they just slapped it on in and called it good, it probably wouldn't be the most enjoyable experience. And so I still wanted to have the landmarks because, let's be honest, this is one of the most visually impressive maps from the single player. I'm really hoping that they did take the necessary steps to balance everything out and make it a well-polished experience for when it does go live. Now, as for the next map, which releases in July, we have Marina. You're going to start to notice a trend with this roadmap. Basically, from here on out, for the next couple of months, all the way until like October and November, Battlefield is going to be releasing new content on a pretty large scale. Marina, for example, is taking place on the side of a mountain and is going to be more focused on infantry-based gameplay. You're going to be taking over what looks to be a small village or a city, and there's going to be a lot more vertical gameplay. Now, what I'm really curious to see is how they're going to be able to intermix different game modes. What would be really cool is to see a game mode like Breakthrough, for example, where you actually have to move up the mountainside, going through all the different buildings, or down the mountainside. That could be another way that they approach it. Regardless, though, the map looks incredible. I love, obviously, infantry-based gameplay. It looks much more close quarters. I really like it when DICE introduces maps that are more centered around buildings and cities. I just love the way that they're able to make that gameplay work, and so I have high hopes for Marina. Moving on over to August, DICE is actually doing something very different and something I was not expecting, and that is that they're going to be releasing 2 maps which are going to feature 5v5 game modes. This isn't going to be your standard conquest, large sprawling 32 versus 32. They're going to be specifically designed around that close quarter 5v5 action. Now, I realize that not everyone is going to be on board with these smaller maps because they don't play Battlefield for 5v5, and I don't blame them for that, but I am intrigued. Maybe this is just simply because I play a lot of Rainbow Six Siege, but I'm interested to see how all of this develops. Maybe Battlefield is trying to actually bring players like me or people that enjoy that smaller, intimate, class-based gameplay and infuse it into the Battlefield series. This is a very team-based game, and if they're able to actually introduce something that enhances or facilitates the teamwork between all the different classes in a 5v5 style of gameplay, it could be a lot of fun. Of course, it remains to be seen, and I'm sure many people would rather them focus their efforts on just making a large conquest map instead of 2 smaller ones, but I am really looking forward to seeing how all of that plays out. Now, if that was all the content that you thought that they're going to be revealing in this trailer, I wouldn't blame you, especially based off of the Battlefield 5's past track record, but in October, they're going to be bringing in essentially Operation Metro. Operation Metro has kind of become a thing in the Battlefield series. It, of course, was introduced back in Battlefield 3, it was added into Battlefield 4, and now it's going to be making its way into Battlefield 5. I realize that this map has kind of become infamous or famous depending on who you're talking to. There are some Battlefield players that look down on this map because they say it's not the true Battlefield experience. There aren't vehicles, it's long corridors, and it's essentially just a meat grinder. But then you have other people that love that meat grinder. That's just what they enjoy playing on. There wouldn't be 24/7 Metro and Operation Lockers in Battlefield 4 if people didn't enjoy that kind of content. Now, what remains to be seen, though, is are they going to be making any adjustments? Moving from BF3 on over into BF4, DICE made a couple of changes. They added in a few flanking routes, not only to clear up some of the congestion, but also just to give people more ways to get around to hopefully capture those objectives, so it wasn't such a meat grinder in the center. And so the hope that I have is that they do something similar to the Battlefield 5 version. I'm not saying they need to overhaul the entire map because you still wanted to play like Operation Metro. Why even reintroduce it if it's not that same kind of gameplay? That's why people like it, is because of the way that it is. But to have another flanking route, especially for a 64-player conquest, just to ease it up a bit and give people another way to loop around, I think would make the map better overall. Obviously, that is just my 2 cents, but I'm really curious to see how they're going to handle that map rework. I'm also hopeful that they're going to be making some changes to specific weapons, like the Piot, for example. The Piot already is annoying to deal with on large-scale maps. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like on Operation Metro. And so I don't want it to be nerfed into oblivion. I am crossing my fingers that they're going to tone it down at least a little bit. Operation Metro is known for that nade spam and just getting taken out of nowhere, but if they can tone that down a little bit and force people to actually use their primary weapon, I think that would go a long ways as well. In general, though, I'm actually a little excited to play on this map. I don't know if it's nostalgia, I don't know what it is, but I think if DICE plays their cards right, this could actually get a lot of people to come back and play Battlefield 5 simply because this was such a fan favorite back in the day. And then finally, and probably the most exciting news that came from this trailer, is that DICE has now officially confirmed that they're going to be adding in the Pacific Theater, Japan versus the United States. I don't know if there's going to be any other faction, but all I can say, like at the start of today's video, is that it's about time. The hope that I have for all of this is that we're finally going to be getting some iconic locations. I know that DICE has been very keen on trying to tell the untold stories of what happened during this era, and I get where they're coming from. That can be quite interesting, but that's not why people are playing this game. That's why I would say a lot of people don't think that this actually looks like a World War II game, because none of these locations are actually recognizable. When you play these kinds of games, you're looking for those iconic locations, and to not have that, of course, puts a sour taste in people's mouth. That's why they've left with disappointment. That's why I think a lot of people critique the game the way that it has gotten critiqued. But if they finally are able to introduce something, especially in this specific theater, that is much more recognizable, I think that that would go a long way. And so while nothing has been confirmed, we don't even really know exactly what the Pacific Theater is going to look like, I'm really crossing my fingers that that is the direction that they're going to be taking with that kind of content. If all that wasn't enough, though, they're also going to be adding in new weapons along the way. This is actually something that DICE has done a good job with since release. I gotta give them credit for that. There's been a steady trickle of new content weapon-wise, and when you really think about it, that is the meats and potatoes of any FPS. Using those weapons in different ways and having that variety is probably one of the reasons why people have stuck with this game for as long as they have. And so while we don't have a complete list, they haven't gone into the specifics, if you pay attention during the trailer, you may have noticed a few of the new ones, but at the very end of it, you hear the iconic ping of the M1 Garand. This has got to be the most requested weapon for Battlefield 5. Everyone has been wanting this weapon to be introduced, and with the start of the Pacific Theater, it looks like it's finally happening. Overall, though, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, I'm excited for the future of Battlefield 5. This is what people were expecting we were going to be getting when you announced that it was going to be a live service game. Can you imagine what the reception would have been a short month or like a week, couple of weeks after the launch of the title, that they started to roll out this kind of content on a monthly basis? I think it would have been a completely different story. What we got instead, though, was 8 to 9 months of essentially beta testing. I mean, the game, while at its core was solid, it had loads of issues. It's now finally gotten to the point where it's a much better game overall, and now they're finally delivering on that content that they kind of promised since the very beginning. And so all I can say is that it's better late than never. It's great to see that DICE and EA haven't given up on Battlefield 5. They're going to continue to support it. It just would have been so much better if this is what it was at release. I'm hopeful that for the next Battlefield game or whatever they're working on in the future, we can get something on a much faster timetable than when we actually got. But yeah, guys, that is what it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Apparently, they're not done with the reveals at EA Play. They're going to make even more announcements. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe they're going to give us a longer roadmap of what's to come. But what they have showed off so far has me excited. Like, at the end of the day, this is really fantastic news. Let me know what you guys thought about this information, though. Which map are you looking forward to play on the most? Let me know down below in the comments. But yeah, guys, until next time, have a good one and take it easy.